America's growing mental health crisis impacting those who protect and serve. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
Good evening. I'm Jenna Browder. These days, the criminal justice system is under more scrutiny than ever, and police are feeling the pressure.
Pressure so intense among some police officers that it's led to a tragic breaking point of no return: suicide. CBN's Eric Phillips examines the disturbing trend.
As we hear about high-profile cases involving police, the impact these situations have on the officers themselves rarely gets much attention. But consider this. In 2019, more officers died by suicide than in the line of duty. And so far this year, that number has reached 60. Approximately 10 law enforcement officers a month, including 2 who died following the January 6th Capitol riot. It's a day etched in American legacy, an angry mob storming the U.S. Capitol building. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died in the line of duty that day, while 2 others who were there took their own lives in the days after. Capitol Police Officer Howard Liebengood and D.C. Police Officer Jeffrey Smith.
They're in this high-pressure environment with no release.
Frank Straub leads the National Police Foundation's Center for Mass Violence Response Studies.
They saw their colleagues getting hurt. They heard the screams. They heard the noise. They themselves were fearful. I think they also probably felt a bit of survivor's guilt.
The kind of experience that sticks with officers, causing unseen wounds that they rarely reveal.
Officers are pretty reluctant in many cases to engage in mental health services, right? Because of the stigma of being weak, or the fear that information is going to leak out to colleagues or to the department.
They're dying from the stigma.
Sharonda Young Calderon lost her husband, Omero, to suicide in 2018. The 18-year veteran of the Dallas County Sheriff's Department first attempted suicide 8 months before his death.
The stigma, shame, and the command staff, the higher-ups, not wanting to acknowledge it. They want to stick with that same suck it up buttercup mentality. That's what's killing the officers. This can happen to anyone, but in law enforcement, they don't have the opportunity to be a human. They're expected to be superheroes. Like, nothing affects you, but it's impossible to see the things that you see, do the things that you do, experience the things that you experience, and not be affected by it.
If they're not talking about it, they're carrying this stuff with them every day.
Jeffrey McGill of Blue Help agrees. HELP stands for honor, educate, lead, and prevent. The group's mission: reduce the mental health stigma among law enforcement.
We ultimately want to change the culture within police agencies because we think it's broken.
Straub says it is changing, slowly.
More and more departments are hiring either full-time or part-time mental health clinicians. I think the vast majority of departments rely on employee assistance programs, peer support programs. More and more, we're not only seeing officer peer support teams, but we're seeing family peer support teams, recognizing that if we create really good structures at home for these officers, there's a support mechanism there.
These efforts hopefully preventing more loss and the pain that comes with it. Sharonda fell into depression after her husband's death and attempted suicide herself. It also affected her 3 children.
My son was 11 at the time, and he had told me that, Mom, I found a way that I can hug my dad again. And I had to let him know that it was okay to tell me, because he didn't want to tell me. He said, if I kill myself.
To make matters worse, Sharonda learned her health insurance had been canceled. There would be no death benefit from the department, nor even honors at her husband's funeral because of how he died.
I think they need to be recognized, and their families need to be compensated appropriately.
It's troubling to have to listen to the parents make choices between, hey, if I use this money because we don't have enough funding for our bills, then I'm cutting into my son or daughter's college fund. And families are having to make these tough choices because we don't provide line of duty death benefits for officer who alludes to suicide.
As time passes, Sharonda is bouncing back, one day at a time, saying only her faith has given her the strength to sustain.
I grew up in the church, and I grew up knowing you're supposed to love, you're supposed to love Jesus. You're supposed to do this. It was routine, but now I'm in love with him. I have a relationship with him, and that's why I'm still standing.
Mental wear and tear can take its toll on officers in other ways as well. Some just walk away from their careers because it's too much. Such has been the case at the Capitol Police Department, where 70 officers have left since the January 6th insurrection. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Still ahead, the anxiety epidemic in America. A look at how the church is dealing with the issue.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Well, it is a staggering statistic. 1 in 5 adults struggles with mental illness each year, and not even the church is immune. Many Christians also face the same struggle.
Still, there's a stigma around seeking counseling, and that's particularly true in churches. Heather Sells introduces us to a pastor and his congregation who are fighting for hope in the face of despair.
As a college senior, Dakari Middlebrooks got a dreadful call. His best friend had been murdered. This led to 3 years of violent nightmares when finally a seminary professor suggested therapy. Middlebrooks rejected it flat out.
I said, I appreciate your suggestion, but Black people don't go to counseling. We just pray about it.
The government estimates that each year, 48 million struggle with anxiety disorders and millions with challenges like major depression, post-traumatic stress, and bipolar disorder. For the young, mental illness can turn deadly. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34. Fortunately, Middlebrooks did make his way to a therapist.
I went to counseling and I enjoyed it. It was the greatest 2.5 years of my life.
He began attending a church with a pastor who openly talked about his struggle after his first wife died.
Went through an incredible loss in my life and found myself in a place of depression and didn't realize what it was. I knew I was in a dark place.
Bishop Walker also eventually sought out counseling, and as he healed, he realized his own church needed a wake-up call.
I think that there is in the African-American community this whole idea that, this phobia, this stigma, if you get counseling, you're crazy.
Research shows that people who are struggling with their mental health often turn first to their church. That's an enormous opportunity.
Now remarried, Bishop Walker and his wife, Dr. Stephanie Walker, a pediatrician, are bringing mental health to the forefront. They started Church Fit at Mount Zion, offering classes and programs on total physical and mental health. This includes a push from the pulpit in an effort to fight the stigma.
We now make it a part of our everyday conversation as opposed to something that's whispered or something that's talked about only in the corner. It's a part of the everyday conversation. So do you need help? How are you feeling today? And asking 3 questions beyond that. Because what is the common answer? Well, I'm fine. Well, really? So tell me more.
Psychologist Veronica Bell attends Mount Zion and says the new direction has been huge.
I think that's what he did, in essence, normalized it from the pulpit that what you're experiencing is real. We can pray about it, but there are also resources available.
Dr. Walker has also developed a referral system so church members can easily find a counselor, psychiatrist, or support group.
As a church, we don't have to recreate the wheel. The resources are out there. We have the people, they have the resources, we serve as connectors.
And Mount Zion makes sure its people know how to help, ask the right questions, and not let go when someone is hurting.
It's not an option to leave you. It's not an option to hang up the phone. It's not an option to tell you we can't help you. Where do I need to send you next? And they're trained to figure out immediately in that moment what are the next steps in terms of getting this person help and getting them connected.
Flash forward to 2021, and Mount Zion has gone completely virtual. Its focus on mental health still big and perhaps more important than ever, as leaders know that COVID has brought extra stress and anxiety.
There are moments in this past year, if we were honest, we didn't think we were going to make it.
Mount Zion is using its website, Facebook, and other social media to communicate about spiritual, mental, and physical health. The church is also serving as a testing site for COVID, and it's encouraging its members to get the vaccine. It hopes to go back to in-person services sometime this year. For Middlebrooks, he's gone from shame to healing to transparency. He writes about his journey in the new book, The Depressed Millennial. And he says he's seen a change in his church as well.
I think the church is now aware that there has to be a space. And I think that's what we've been able to do here at Mount Zion, is carve out a space for dialogue. A lot of people were afraid to share that I'm broken.
Reporting in Nashville, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Important story. Thank you, Heather. Anger in America could be described as an epidemic. So, is there a solution to our heated emotions? We take a look when Faith Nation returns.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new CBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new CBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new CBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
An anger epidemic in America, from politics to the pandemic and so many other issues. People are fired up.
So how can we lower the temperature so cooler heads prevail? I talked with a radio personality host who has an unorthodox prescription.
Major road rage action happening here.
On the road, off the field, young and old, anger seems to dominate the current mood.
Anger as an emotion actually has a lot of value.
While psychologists say it's a natural response designed to help us fast-track problem solving,
it feels good because you feel like you're more likely to succeed. That also relates to some of the things that anger does. It makes you, again, more confident in that you will succeed in attaining your goal.
Excessive anger can cause emotional and physical harm, leading to heart disease, lung damage, and even shortened lifespans. Not to mention how it can ruin relationships.
There's no way to live, and it actually is terrible for your health.
Brant Hansen, a nationally syndicated radio host,
some good broadcasting is on the way.
Yeah.
Wrote the book Unoffendable in 2015, tackling the issue of anger gone wild. You might be considered a prophet somewhat, considering that these are the dominant themes playing out today. So, Brant, why'd you write the book?
I couldn't figure out how long I was supposed to be angry about stuff.
Like letting go of childhood trauma and bitterness after growing up in a broken home. The son of a preacher, his search led him to the Bible and what he believes is the antidote.
The answer keeps coming back. We're not supposed to stay angry at all. We're supposed to let it go. We're supposed to forgive people.
Hansen makes the case anger is a choice, writing, "We can and should choose to forfeit our right to be offended." It's an idea he acknowledges sounds radical, but he says it's modeled on the life and words of Christ.
I'm not telling you that. Jesus is telling us we have to forgive people. Paul's the one who said, let go of your anger before the sun goes down. Get rid of all anger. James is the one that writes, there's nothing righteous about human anger. You can find that in James 1.
Brian Edwards, a Christian counselor and a minister of marriage and family, agrees, quoting a familiar passage about anger.
Do not let the sun go down on your wrath, right? So I find myself in my marriage counseling often bringing up this verse, because during marital adjustment sessions, what ends up happening with couples is sometimes they'll let this anger and frustration go on to the next day.
The key, according to both, is forgiveness and sacrifice.
I myself am a sinner, so I have to decide, am I going to let things go or not? And the Bible is not ambiguous about this. We're supposed to let go of offense, cover sin with our love. We're supposed to forgive so that we'll be forgiven.
Pastor Edwards adds, it's also good to be humble and reflect on our own failings.
Search me, O God, and know my thoughts. See if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me into the way everlasting. So there's this idea on a regular basis of being introspective and asking God, hey, check me, because I want to live a life that honors you, so I need to be checked. So Jesus cleansed the temple, but God wants us to cleanse our temple.
That is not what America is about.
But what about political causes and conflicting worldviews? He points out many of the same issues existed in Jesus' day.
Infanticide, racism, occupation, injustice, like all of this. There's nothing new. And yet, look at his approach to humanity and the fact that he still wanted to save it. He still loved us. You can still advocate, give, donate, act, be an activist on whatever your issue is. But if you do it out of anger, that's not the right motivation. It actually clouds your judgment.
In fact, according to a recent study by psychology professor Michael Greenstein, people are more susceptible to misinformation when they're angry, raising their confidence while reducing the memory's accuracy.
With fast-paced information gathering, it's really hard already to know what is the quote truth. And if you're experiencing anger about something, you might be more likely to just go and search for information that shows that you're right. And then you believe that you're right. And so it creates this kind of cycle of I'm angry.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about forgiving those who sin against you.
Hansen admits writing a book on anger doesn't mean he's mastered it, though he says being unoffendable and letting go of anger has clear rewards.
So The weird thing is it actually makes life a lot better. And I think it helps us to see things more clearly too. And the last thing is it makes us very different from the rest of the world.
And whether it's in the workplace, school, home, or even your church, Pastor Edwards reiterates that forgiveness is key when it comes to managing your emotions and letting go of anger.
Coming up, it's called comfort food. So why is it making people so miserable? We explain after this.
Finding video on CBN.com just got easier. We've taken all our video, the 700 Club, news, testimonies, teachings, plus our 24/7 channels, and put them in one convenient location, CBN TV. Watch what you want, when you want. It's all simple to find, and now easier than ever to email a story to a friend. CBN TV on CBN.com.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're gonna bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
No super balls, man. Come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Finding video on CBN.com just got easier. We've taken all our video, the 700 Club, news, testimonies, teachings, plus our 24/7 channels, and put them in one convenient location, CBN TV. Watch what you want, when you want. It's all simple to find, and now easier than ever to email a story to a friend. CBN TV on CBN.com.
Macaroni and cheese, hot fudge sundaes, biscuits, and gravy. Many people call these kinds of things comfort food, but these and other foods like them could be making millions of Americans feel pretty miserable.
Jenna, you're making me hungry. CBN's Lori Johnson explains the connection between our soaring depression rate and what you and I may be eating.
The number of Americans seeking help for depression and anxiety skyrocketed 93% last year compared to the year before. While some of that can be blamed on the COVID impact, research shows mental illness has steadily increased for years. 40 million Americans deal with some mental health concern. That's more than the populations of New York and Florida combined. These disorders make the list of the most common causes of disability, and suicide scores as a leading cause of death, no matter the age group.
We need to understand that the silent pandemic going on is one around mental illness, or just people feeling more depressed, more blue, not sleeping well, feeling extremely stressed and traumatized by everything that's going on.
Meanwhile, 3 out of 4 Americans are either overweight or obese, the highest level ever. Turns out there's a link. The same foods that trigger weight gain can also lead to depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues.
The foods that we call comfort foods are actually discomfort for our brain.
Dr. Uma Naidu is one of a growing number of psychiatrists using healthy foods to strengthen patients' mental health.
We have the power to actually improve that for ourselves. Not that a person shouldn't see their doctor and take a medication if they need it, but we also can start today at the end of our fork by making healthier choices in how we eat.
In her book, This Is Your Brain on Food, Dr. Naidu says a healthy brain begins with something we've been telling you about for years, a healthy gut.
Essentially, the gut and brain, even though they are in different parts of the body, they actually arise from the very same cells in the embryo. And then they divide up and form these two organs, and then they remain connected throughout life.
That key connection is known as the vagus nerve, a two-way superhighway sending constant chemical messaging back and forth. Foods that can wreck the gut microbiome, however, jam up this nerve highway, reaching all the way to the brain.
When we're feeding those microbes sugary treats, lots of added refined sugars, lots of soda, what unfortunately happens is the bad microbes get fed. And when they get fed those sugary foods, they overcome the good microbes.
Several studies, including MRI imaging, show excessive sugar makes depression and anxiety worse. Dr. Naidu confirms what we've been reporting. Processed foods are loaded with sugar, even those that don't seem sweet and are marketed as healthy.
Fortunately, things like French fries from fast food restaurants are actually made with added sugar. We don't taste that, but they're made to be hyper-palatable. So just be aware that there's hidden sugars.
Also, stay away from most of the fake ones.
Several of the artificial sweeteners, unfortunately, can drive anxiety, worsen depression, and disrupt those gut microbes.
Dr. Naidu recommends adding colorful vegetables like leafy greens to your menu, which contain folate.
Folate, when there's a low level in the brain, actually can lead to depression.
Antioxidant-rich foods like blueberries.
We are combating oxidative stress, which is really good and much better for our mental well-being.
And healthy fats like olive oil, avocados, plus things like salmon and walnuts, which include omega-3.
It doesn't exclude the use of medications when needed, but it provides individuals with an additional tool in their toolkit to really uplift their mental health.
An added benefit is that a healthy diet can also increase a medication's effectiveness. So while junk food may brighten your mood in the moment, it could deepen depression and anxiety in the long run. By breaking that cycle, you might find over time that you feel so good you can say goodbye to that comfort crutch forever. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
I'm feeling a little convicted, Jenna.
I know. Well, your salad for lunch sounds great.
I'll share it. Thanks for watching.
Have a great night.